Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing with another video. This is a review of the AFR small block Chevy 220 head. Don't confuse it with the Ford head. Ford actually has a 220 head that's from AFR as well, but this is a small block Chevy one. Hopefully someday I can do the Ford one, but anyway, this is a small block Chevy one, but this is the race port. They have a race port and a competition port, and I'll explain the difference. You see these lines here? These are from the CNC port. What it is think of it like a lollipop, but it's only like a ½ inch big, and it's got a cutter on it. What it does is the machine goes around and around. But as it makes one revolution, it will step forward and make another turn. The further it takes a step, the rougher the port is. The competition ones, it doesn't take as big of a step. So what ends up happening is there's more lines, so it makes the port itself finer. This is much rougher because the step over, that's what they call it, is rougher. The reason why it's cheaper with the race port than the competition port is because it takes less time for the CNC machine to cut this one as opposed to the competition port. Because after all, the competition port would have to make another step, like 2 steps for every one of this. So of course it's going to take longer. The port should have it smoother. But I will say, if you were to ever want the competition port versus this one, you should have just stepped up to a bigger head anyway. And it makes no sense to spend that much money. Extra money for that. If you were to do that, you'd better off just say, hey, I want to buy these from you and just touch them up the best you can. And then, or touch them up for like 500 bucks. And I'll be like, no problem. I'll just change the valve job, port them, and you'll get more flow than the competition one ever did. And more power, of course. But anyway, this isn't so much about me, but it's about the head. So we'll go through it. This is a 210 intake valve. I'm going to give you flow numbers here in a minute from the Sanyez bench that I have on a 4155 bore. It's a 45-degree valve job in both of these. I actually vacuum test this because I pulled it straight out of the box just to kind of give it an idea. It pulled perfect vacuum, so they're all sealed up. But I have to take it apart, of course, to flow it because I have to take off the regular springs to put on my springs. But I will tell you some things I love. I absolutely love, I'm doing my best to hold the phone at the same time. AFR does probably one of the nicer companies about the transition from the top cut into the chamber. Now remember, this is the race port. So this isn't even the best one that they have. The competition one, much finer. But this is what they call the top cut, and you can barely see it here. I'm probably not doing a very good job, but what you want is that top cut to come right into the chamber. What you don't want to see is these ledges like this. Now this looks bad, this little ledge here. That is nothing. A lot of the companies will have a ledge, that same ledge goes farther up in here and all the way around. AFR is really good about that, and especially look at the exhaust side. Super nice. Like I love their CNC work. I have to say they do a great job. Like whoever's programming their CNC stuff, they're on point. Now, if they had a better port they copied, just kidding. If they had a better port itself, the head itself would be better. But this is a really good port. I flowed one before, but I'm gonna go ahead and flow this just so you can get some numbers. Let's look at the intake side. It is a little bit bigger than the 210, so nice. I've got the valves off and stuff. I will say, this is the cheaper version. Just something to keep in mind. I wanted to check out the head itself. These springs that come on it, they say they're good to 700 valve lift. Well, here's what I came up with. So I tested the spring. It actually installed heights at a 194. The customer's gonna have a 655 lift. With that, the seat pressure is 219 and it opens 563. He's got plenty of bind clearance, so if he was to run a bigger cam, he could. But that pressure is kind of low, which seems bad. You're like, wow, 220, that's really bad for a solid roller cam. However, the valve train weight's really light. Let me show you. Okay, this is my scale. I'm gonna turn it on real quick. Wait for it to 0. Gotcha. This is the intake valve. 113 grams. That's really light for a stainless steel valve. It's probably because of the 8mm stuff, and the valve's really not that long. So if you wanted to compare it to the exhaust valve, how much does it weigh? There you go, 97 grams. So overall, their valve train's pretty light. So you can get away with this lighter valve spring with this. If it was 11/32 stem, the valve would weigh more. Now I will do a video later comparing different weights of different valves so you can kind of see, but the lighter the valve train, the less spring you need to control it. So good job on AFR's part for that. So I'm gonna flow it real quick and I'll tie the videos together and you get to see the flow numbers. Okay guys, here's the AFR head all bolted down. This is the AFR 220. In case you're wondering what the part number is, it's 1065. So let's look at the flow numbers. Let's start off with the intake. Alrighty. This is the intake flow numbers right here. So this is like 1/10 of an inch delay of 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, blah, blah, blah. So its peak number is a 303 and it does it at 600 valve lift. Now I know AFR claims far higher than this. They never flow what they claim on my bench. In case you're wondering, this is a 4.155 bore that was flowed on. Now, if you notice, I've stopped the flow and test at 900 lift. Usually I go to 1 inch and everybody's like, well, there's no need for 1 inch. If you watch one of my other videos, I talk about that, but I won't go into it now. The reason why I couldn't flow it at 1 inch is because the retainer would hit the seal. So it bottomed out, in other words. So this is as far as I could go is 900 valve lift, which doesn't matter anyway. You can kind of tell it's gave up the ghost. It's going backwards at this point anyway. It's flowing less as the valve opens more. This is because the airspeed is too fast. So as the valve opens more, it wants more air in, causing the speed over the short side to increase. And since the short side's not shaped properly, it can't maintain that speed. So it ramps the short side, shutting off the curtain area of flow, and flow goes down. That's what you're seeing here. That's the reason why it backs up like that. Real common with AFR heads. It's really into their short side design that's causing that. But anyway, so there you are, 303. So, but let's look at the exhaust. All right, here's your exhaust. Now, AFR flows them with an exhaust pipe. I do not flow them with the exhaust pipe, and someday I'm gonna make another video where I show why I don't. Because exhaust flow numbers with an exhaust pipe are really, I mean, exhaust flow numbers in it generally anyway aren't that useful. But when you flow them with an exhaust pipe, it really becomes less useful because I can flow this with a 1 7/8 pipe. I've got one. And then I can flow one with a 2 1/8 inch pipe. And the 2 1/8 inch pipe attached to this will flow even more. On a live engine, it will run like a turd. So anyway, I don't flow them with an exhaust pipe. So this is what you're looking at. Looks like 229 is best at 700. So there's what you're looking at. Now, how's that compared to things? Well, you should have watched the video before this. I hope I put it out. I ported an AFR 210. And I wanted to show you how my ported AFR 210 compares just to this out-of-box 220. So we're gonna go report. Report. Okay, this right here is the AFR 220, and this is me porting an AFR 210. So if you look, it beats it everywhere by much. So the only reason why I'm saying this is because I know someone's probably going to post a comment that why didn't someone just get the AFR 220 without flow the AFR 210? There's no need to port it because they say they flow 330 or whatever on their website. They don't. They flow 303. This is what the AFR 210 ported can do. It's still better than the out-of-box AFR 220. So hopefully that gives you some more insight. If you have questions or ideas for videos, just let me know and I'll put them out there. I do have some other heads still to come that I want to do reviews on. One of them is the Assault small block Chevy head, which is a Chinese casting that looks like a dart imitation. As soon as I ever get 5 seconds, I will try to do it. Anyway, thanks.